Hello, Tom Maguire. I'm just going to talk about the book Taxtopia, how I discovered the injustices, scams, and guilty secrets of the tax evasion games by the rebel accountant. Now, this book won't really give you any kind of sneaky, cheeky ways of avoiding tax. So if that's why you're going to listen to this book or read this book, then you might as well not bother. What this book does make you realise is that actually, here in the UK, and I suppose potentially the rest of the world as well to some degree, there are really no ways of getting away with it legally. So if you're a billionaire, multi-millionaire, hugely wealthy, you will probably get away with a lot of tax. You will have ways of manoeuvring your money, putting it in different places, hiding it here and there, and you have plenty of people along the way who are happy to help you do that for a cost. But if you're a normal person, even if you're on a pretty good wage, but maybe you own your own home, you've got a few $100,000 put away potentially, even a couple of million potentially, you are not going to get away legally with anything. Anything you leave to your children is going to be heavily taxed. There are all sorts of things you can try legally, but eventually the tax man will get you. And that's basically what this book is about, and it's really quite interesting and kind of infuriating at times as well. I've read all sorts of books and listened to all sorts of books on money over the years. I find it very interesting. I probably started with Think and Grow Rich, which is somewhere up here on my shelf. Somewhere, what the hell's that? Somewhere up there, is it? If you can see it, I don't know. This guy, the Rich Dad, Poor Dad man, Kawasaki's called, isn't he? Kiyosaki, sorry. Kiyosaki, he's called. This is one of the best books on money that I've ever read. Fantastic. I've reviewed this one not that long ago. Felix Dennis is really good. Loads of books. Read loads of books on money. Rob Moore, he's an entrepreneur in England. I've read his books and listened to his. His book Money was one of the first ones I listened to on audio, on Audible. So this book follows his journey from when he started in the world of work up until he became an accountant and where he's ended up now. He's got some really interesting things that the rich people do to move their money, from having expensive yachts and then the Cayman Islands doing something with bikini-clad women posing on those boats because they're tax deductible, strippers' clothing being tax deductible because it's argued that the clothing wouldn't be practically beneficial. Churches in tax havens like Monaco, and I think Jersey as well, potentially. I really like Jersey, I think it's lovely there. But it is used as a bit of a tax dodge, to be fair. So they have been known to sell plots to billionaires to show tax authorities, or so the billionaires can show tax authorities that they do indeed intend to live there for the rest of their lives. So they can buy a grave plot just to prove that. And then if they can prove that, they intend to live there for the rest of their lives, and they can continue to not pay tax, presumably. We have a prime minister here in the UK at the minute whose wife is worth close to $1 billion, I think. No problem with that, whatever. If you watch me on this channel, I have no bitterness around people making lots of money. But she has managed to have her non-dom status, which means that she manages to get away with a huge amount of tax in this country. And again, you might say, well, why not? You would if you could. Yeah, we would all kind of find ways if we could potentially. But I think when you're talking about that level of wealth, that crazy, almost infinite amount of money, you should be a bit more principled in terms of where your tax goes, I think. Particularly if you're married to the Prime Minister of the UK. If you're avoiding paying huge amounts of tax, that just doesn't look good, I'm afraid. Feel free to comment below. I'm more than happy to read what you have to say about that. But it just doesn't look good. I think you've got to be, as a politician, you've got to be reasonably principled, really. Reasonably, at least, I would say. He talks about how in Scandinavia, tax returns and earnings are public knowledge. I didn't really like the idea of that, if I'm honest. But, maybe that shows what we like here in the UK. We're a bit scared sort of talking about money. I don't particularly like the idea of my neighbour being able to look up how much I've earned and how much tax I've paid, to be fair. I think that would be a little bit weird. I think we've got a long way to go socially before we're able to be cool enough to cope with that sort of stuff. But that's interesting. And he just reckons that we should get rid of corporation tax altogether because, of course, people hide behind limited companies. And actually it should just come down more to the individual, which I think does make sense. I've worked for myself for 10 years now, and whilst I've never got away with anything, you can see how businesses do do very corrupt things, then kind of liquidate themselves, disappear, then start up again somewhere else and continue to make lots of money when they've actually done something really, really wrong, corrupt potentially. So yeah, the moral of the story is the really wealthy will get away with tax. You and I, you know, whether you're someone who is very poor, just kind of making ends meet, or someone who's managed to sort of pay their mortgage and maybe even have a few million put away potentially, you are going to get clobbered. You are not going to get away with it. A few million is nowhere near enough. You have to be worth north of 50, 100, close to $1 billion, and you can get away with pretty much anything. So an infuriating book, but it is funny as well at times. It's written very well. It's entertaining. I recommend it. Cheers.